got hit in the head with a wrench and I was bleeding all over. Oh yeah. And I said, do you really count that as not me being with the company?
Hey there, Raise Up Nation. You are not going to believe this. You thought we were having fun before, but we are raising the bar. Our guest today, my new friend, Mr. John Corcoran. Is it Corcoran? Is that correct? Did I say it right?
That's
Excellent. Right. Has nearly 40 years experience in the entertainment industry with Ripley's Entertainment. Ripley's Entertainment is the largest and fastest growing international chain of museum type tourist attractions in the world. In the past 25 years, the company has grown from 12 attractions in 4 countries to 100 plus attractions in 11 countries. And John's current role is the enviable role of Attraction Development Director. And he's going to tell us more about that for the 31 Ripley's Believe It or Not auditoriums around the world, and a network of over 100 properties which have seen over 100 million guests since 1933. He provides leadership, program, and project management and talent development for both brands. John, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm honored and excited to chat with you today. How are you doing?
I'd say under the circumstances we're in today, I'm doing just wonderful. Quite the introduction there. So I hope I'm able to fulfill all those glorious sound bites.
It's all the truth. It's all the truth. So, Mike, I'll ask you real quick. You're in Florida, right? Is that right?
Orlando.
Yeah. How's it going in Florida? Everything that's going on.
The term of the day, flatten the curve.
Yes.
In Orange County, which is where Orlando sits, we seem to be doing quite well. I would say more than flattening, but a little bit out on the downslope. Most people seem to be paying attention. Florida often gets the news for maybe having some outliers of society, shall we say? But so far, most folks are being behaved, and it seems to be helping, which is good.
Oh, that's awesome. That's how I feel like it is up here in North Carolina too. We're really trying to flatten the curve. We've been in self-isolation ourselves for about 4 weeks now. And so we're navigating what it's like to live with each other all the time. So that's been pretty interesting for our relationships. But it's also, there's been some good things like a slower pace. And, I'm hoping that we eventually all come out of this on the other side better, but it's going to take a while, more or less, I feel like.
That's my hope. I have seen some good things also. I'm on the board of our HOA, and I see some community spirit coming back. I see people out walking around the community or biking or, sweeping out their garage. And sometimes people just kind of come home, close that door and stay inside. And so I'm sensing a little bit of community. You're talking to your neighbor, maybe from 10 feet away, but they're talking to their neighbor,
right?
which is a good sign. So I think you're right. There's going to be some good come out of this. Looks a little bleak right now, but I think there's going to be some good come out of it, and that'll benefit us in the long run.
Yeah, that's true. Well, are you ready to talk about helping folks make the most of where they are and kind of where they're going?
I am ready, and hopefully can provide a little bit of help for them.
That would be awesome. So before we start, I know you probably get this all the time, but please tell me, what is your very favorite Ripley's exhibit?
Well, I do get that question a lot, and I can tell you that the answer is different all the time because it's often influenced by what we've gotten recently. So it's cool stuff. And Ripley's has such a wide collection that sometimes people don't realize we have sort of like historically significant objects. When John Wilkes Booth shot Abraham Lincoln that night at Ford's Theater, he was carrying matching Derringers. Ripley's owns one of those Derringers, kind of thing.
Wow.
A recent purchase that's super cool is we bought a collection of passports of Neil Armstrong.
What?
So, and they're spectacular in that they kind of show his life. I mean, at the first one, he's a student and hardly goes anywhere. And then he gets something I didn't even know exist. It's called a special government passport. And he got that when he was training for the Apollo program and training to be an astronaut, I should say. And then he got a diplomatic passport when he was in the official Apollo program because they did a lot of training in Ecuador and stuff like that. And then post that, he had all kinds of travel because he started traveling the world giving speeches about this amazing journey on the moon and all that. So it's not just a document, it really kind of tells some life history.
That's so cool.
Still one of my all-time super favorites though is a board that has been painted. And there was a gentleman that spent about 15 years painting a board.
What?
So every day, it's a little piece of board. I think it was a 2x6, and he would paint it 2 or 3 coats every day. And what's really cool is when you cut it, you get this beautiful rainbow section because he used a gallon of white paint, and then a gallon of blue paint, and then a gallon of red paint. So there's about 7,000 coats of paint on this board.
Oh my gosh.
So the board is 1 3/4 inches thick, and the paint is 6 inches thick. So it's just it's a really cool visual, and it's a great reflection of people just wanting to do their own thing. And this guy just painted this board, and he's created this really unique, cool piece with a wonderful story and a great demonstration of what people are willing to do to be different.
Yeah, that's interesting that you would even think to do something like that though, right? Like, I'm going to paint this board and it's going to create this beautiful piece of art that's like expressive in a unique way.
Yeah, the classic beauty's in the eye of the beholder. So it's wonderful that we get to celebrate that part of humanity.
That's true. So my friend Neil, he said that this is the only job you have ever had, which is going to be super interesting to our listeners because that's what we're all about, finding the best jobs and getting paid what we're worth. And you obviously feel like this is a good one. So what do you love so much about Ripley's? And tell me a little bit about this journey, I guess, of where you started and where you are now.
Sure. A small clarification there. It's probably the only real job I've ever had. I did own businesses for a while, sort of thing.
Oh, nice.
So, it was a summer job in college. I got hired at a seasonal mini museum that the company had to take tickets. It's a funny story in that I tell people I needed an easy job because I had broken my hand working at a grocery store.
Oh, no.
Which was my high school college trade coming up was I worked at grocery stores. So I broke my hand. So I needed kind of something easy to do. So I got hired to take tickets and clean the glass. And that was something I could do with a cast on my hand. So it worked out okay. And it just worked up from there. A little bit of hard work and some things we'll talk about today, and got into the management training program and moved to about 10 or 15 different attractions around the country. I got started building attractions. I got put in charge of all of our development, got put in charge of all of our operations.
Wow.
Actually left, did some things on my own for a while, and then came back kind of just for a more creative role. So working more in developing and improving those products we have.
That's amazing. So what has been kind of your favorite position as you've moved around?
Well, operations is interesting, and bless the people who do it. But, if you get a chance to be in a creative role and you like that, that's really the thing to do. I mean, I always jokingly say, no one ever stands in front of a business and says, I put 4.5% on the profit margin there.
Right.
But people will stand in front of something and say, I built that.
Right.
And so having that ability of making things better. It's a great guy in our industry. And, he says, look, we have a wonderful job. Our job is to entertain people, and we don't pollute the skies or poison the rivers. So my job when I get up in the morning is to make sure families are having fun when they're on vacation.
Right.
That's a pretty good job.
That's an awesome job.
You still gotta do reports and safety things and all that, but that's ultimately that's the reason we get up in the morning. That's a pretty darn good reason to get up in the morning.
Yeah. So whenever you kind of started embarking on this journey with Ripley's, what do you feel like set you apart? It sounds like you've moved up throughout the ranks, and you've worked really hard. And so what do you feel like was the difference maker for you?
I feel like it was at that very first stop because I got hired to, like I said, take tickets and clean the glass. And it was interesting in that Ripley's owned the business, but we were on someone else's property, and it was an amusement pier. So you could either, the way you came into the attraction was you bought tickets. Think back to the old days when you went to the amusement piers and the roller coaster was 5 tickets and the merry-go-round was 2 tickets. And so we took those pier tickets, and then at the end of the day, the pier would come and take that bag of tickets, and then they would send us a report saying how many tickets were in there.
Uh-huh.
And I remember getting the reports sometimes and going, boy, I thought we were a lot busier yesterday, things like
Mm-hmm.
that. So I found a turnstile with a counter on it, hidden sort of like in a closet in the back.
Uh-huh.
And so I installed this turnstile. And then each day I would write down the numbers that were on the turnstile and I would compare them to the numbers that the peer was giving us.
Uh-huh.
And I started sending that to my boss and saying, look, I think there's something wrong here. So
Right.
he went, wow, guys, looking after my money kind of thing. So,
Uh-huh.
and again, I think, look, I think a lot of it was hard work because,
Mm-hmm.
I found some supplies and tools. And when I got the cast off my hand, I started painting stuff on the slow days. There wasn't a whole lot to do. And
Uh-huh.
I was getting paid by the hour. So I didn't mind coming in an hour early and painting something that seemed like a
Right.
good job. So, yeah, so I think it was that, caring and willing to
Mm-hmm.
work hard. Boy, that'll go a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like right now in the situation that we're in, kind of with COVID, that there's a lot of people that are working from home, working remotely, and then there's a lot of people that are searching now for employment. So I feel like whenever we talk about getting a raise or approaching your boss, that now is not necessarily a good time to go and have those types of conversations, but it is the right time to kind of go above and beyond. Do you feel like that could be, I don't know, that might be true or not right now in this situation?
Yeah, no, I think it is. Certainly, I think for the listeners, maybe make some notes and bring it up in a few months because I'm not sure if now's the time to do it. Most pays are going the other way.
Yeah.
But I think that, yes, I think you can, stand out as, loyal and dedicated. And, your big question about, what do you do to get a raise? And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
my answer is make yourself worth more.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's through working more, harder work, learning something, proving that you can do this, can you do two jobs? Because
Mm-hmm.
then, I mean, granted so many hours in a week and you got to find that life work balance. But if you have the skill to cover a couple of jobs, then maybe there's some value there for the company. That sort of approach. But, if you're passionate about what you do,
Mm-hmm.
that it just comes through. I mean,
Yeah.
some people see it as dedication, some people see it as loyalty, some people see it as hard work. But if you're passionate about it, if it's what you talk about and you walk the walk and you're willing to
Mm-hmm.
do that, and it comes across. And I think that's going to really help you a lot in the long term.
Yeah. Do you feel like you've always been passionate about your position, your roles?
Definitely.
Definitely. Good.
Yeah, I think when I first left that little museum and got transferred to our management training program, I
Uh-huh.
remember I remember the manager of the museum coming in at 8:30 in the morning, and I was sitting at my desk, and he said, "Oh, John, I thought you had the night shift." And I said, "Well, I do, but I just had nothing else to do, and I got lots to do here, so I just came in." So
Right.
I was supposed to work the 3 to 10 shift, but I just worked all day, sort of thing. Uh,
Yeah.
Young and single, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So if you're not in that position, make sure you find the right balance. But that can certainly go a long way.
Mm-hmm. So, what is your best advice, or you feel like, um, for somebody that's feeling a little bit undervalued wherever they're working right now?
It's a funny word because it got a bad name for a while, but propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
Are you proving that you're worth what you think you are?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean you got to write up a list and send it to your boss every week of all the cool stuff you did, but you might be doing weekly reports. So are you framing those correctly so that your boss sees that? Look, you've set a goal, you've reached that goal, maybe even exceeded that goal, or taken on some other things on the side.
Mm-hmm.
I know in my weekly report, I have a few departments that I take care of, but I always listen other
And
because it's
other?
just, yeah, it's just, when you've been around as long as I have, they ask you to take a look at a few things. So
Uh-huh.
my boss likes to say, stick your nose in this.
Mm-hmm.
So I always try to list that, right? Because it shows that, look, I've got this varied ability and I'm willing to step out and do a little bit more. And
Mm-hmm.
I am doing this a little bit more so that my list is not only maybe what you've agreed to do, but maybe a little bit more. So,
Mm-hmm.
working harder and you don't have to tell people you're working harder, but you just have to show them the results. It's
Mm-hmm.
probably the best thing you can do.
Yeah, because I mean, there are some people that they're working harder, but they're working smarter too. Like they find new ways to do something that they've been doing, and that can be super valuable, I feel like.
Agreed, especially if that working smarter, is saving the company some money because you found a more efficient way to do something or reduce cost on something, then obviously that, that increases your worth. So it's you gotta find that balance. There are people who just keep working harder but not doing it the right way, and you just you'll never get out of the hole at that point.
Yeah, and you just get frustrated almost, I feel like, because sometimes it is a lot of hard work, but it's smart work, and it's innovating, and it's helping who you're working with. How is Ripley's doing right now? I know you guys are a museum. I mean, you guys okay?
I believe we have 113 attractions and 111 are closed.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
so it's not,
Yeah.
it's certainly not a great time. Like
Mhm.
many companies, we've had to go through some rough times here with some,
Yeah.
with some furloughs and everything. We sort of held on as long as we could, but
Yeah.
at this point, not knowing quite where
Where we're
what's
going to
around the
be.
next corner. So
Mhm.
we had to make some tough decisions this week. And,
Yeah.
we are trying to be opportunistic with the crew we have
Nice.
here. We
Yeah.
said, what's that work we've always wanted to do that we can't do because our attractions are open 365 days a year?
Mm-hmm.
And we've made a commitment to make sure that when we do reopen, every attraction has 3 coats of wax on the floor and every carpet is
Right.
steam cleaned, because those are the kind of things you really can't do when you run the hours we do. We have
Mm-hmm.
attractions that are open 15 hours a day, 365 days a
Oh
year.
my gosh.
So it's hard to do some of that work. So we're trying to be
Mm-hmm.
opportunistic where it's safe to do so,
Right.
in following
Mm-hmm.
the governmental guidelines, and that varies by region and everything.
Yeah.
I think we're, to some extent, we may be coming out the other side, as I believe our attraction in Korea has now reopened.
Oh,
So
nice.
maybe it's a rolling cycle. We'll see, but
Mm-hmm.
certainly a ways to go.
Are you guys working on anything right now that you're hoping future next 3 to 5 years?
We are, we've continued that work because we know, at one point we'll have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting when it comes back. We think to some extent people are going to want to get out and do stuff.
Yeah,
They're going to
absolutely.
want to do it maybe in a little bit different environment, making sure it's
Mm-hmm.
safe and social distancing. So we're taking a look at that. How can we adapt our attractions to make people feel comfortable about that?
Mm-hmm.
But also that, to some extent, it might be a competitive market.
Oh, yeah.
People maybe won't have as many dollars, and if they're going to decide where they're going to spend their hard-earned dollars to entertain their family. So we want to make sure that that we've got something unique, and it's the best possible way. So
That sounds awesome. So
so
I typically ask the guests to share kind of their best war stories about getting a raise, and whether it's you or someone else that you know, what's your favorite story? And can you tell me a little bit about what happened?
um, you know my hmm, the first thing that comes to mind was not quite a raise, because it actually had to do with some severance when I did leave the company for a while and did some stuff on my
Mm-hmm.
own, as I mentioned. But that first job I had working on that little amusement pier,
Mm-hmm.
um, for the sake of payroll convenience, I didn't technically work for Ripley's, reported to them, but I
Ah.
was on the other company's payroll.
Uh-huh.
So I never got service time for that.
Uh-huh.
So when there was some talk of severance, they, pointed out my service time, and I said, well, no, that's not right. It should be this.
Right.
And the VP at the time said, no, sorry, that doesn't count. Well, the fellow that was president at this time was a vice president when I worked at that facility. One year when we were closing it up because it was a seasonal attraction, we were trying to weatherproof the attraction, and small industrial accident. I got hit in the head with a wrench. I was bleeding all over.
Oh no.
I was fine. I was fine, but it was a memorable situation.
Right?
So I went to the president, and we were just sort of telling war stories. And I said, yeah, remember that time I got hit in the head with a wrench and I was bleeding all over? Oh yeah. And I said, do you really count that as not me being with the company? And he said, well, no, of course not. So so I used emotion
Yes.
to draw a reaction from someone,
Uh-huh.
and got myself a couple more years service time.
Well,
So
that's good.
so yeah, so it was using a little bit of emotion to sort of, point out your loyalty to the company kind of thing. So
Yeah.
so
And maybe a
that's
little bit of a flaw in the thinking almost with the service time. Like, because
yeah.
you worked hard for them at that
Exactly.
point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, I think the other things, I generally look at are, changes in situation. Can you document something? For me, I've moved around a lot, so
Mm-hmm.
I've always had to look at cost of living indexes going from one
Mm.
market to another.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if you're assistant manager in one place and you're getting to be a manager in another place, and that comes with an increase in salary, that's wonderful. Is it an increase in true salary? Or, did you look at a cost of living index? And,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes the same, different dollars might not buy you as much. So always, always be aware of the situation. If it's a job change that requires something, I mean, it could be anything from, dress to equipment,
Mm-hmm.
those sort of things. So just make sure that you're, comparing what the job is and where the job is to where you were, and
Mm-hmm.
making sure any adjustment in salary is appropriate as well.
Yeah, I like that. Do you ever recommend talking about kind of the perks, like vacation time or anything like that, as when you're having those raise conversations or the performance reviews?
I do. I think that sometimes, some things are very much fixed. Company,
Mm-hmm.
you get 3 weeks of vacation and you get at 5 years, or, those sort of
Mm-hmm.
things. So sometimes those are difficult for a supervisor to change just because it's a company HR policy, those sort of things.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's a good way to add a little bit more on value. Some companies really try to stick to a pay structure because, if you're a level 17 manager, that's what the pay is. So,
Mm-hmm.
how can you get something else out of that? Informal deals sometimes can have some value to them, without sharing too much, because maybe not everyone in my company has the same informal deals I do. But but no, I think that's I think that's a way to do it. I know staff that's worked for me, we've done, maybe a small equipment purchase for them or something like
Oh,
that.
okay.
Something along that line. It's a
Mm-hmm.
laptop, right? So
Right.
now you haven't changed your salary structure. You've helped someone out.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a business expense. You just made their job easier. And I'm saying laptop back when everybody had a desktop only kind of thing, and
Right.
you spring for a laptop for someone. So so some things like that. I think
Mm-hmm.
yes, perks are something. Certainly, if you work for a smaller company, things like vacation are different. I know people that have done I call it the northern work week, where you work a little bit longer Monday through Thursday, and you get a half a day off on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Because you want to go out and enjoy and it's a summer thing. So you get a
Mm-hmm.
half a day off in the summer. Doesn't mean quite as much to us in Florida, but
Yeah.
um, but I know some people have negotiated that in. So, that
Mm-hmm.
could be really important to you if you're like to go camping on the weekend sort of guy, then,
Oh, yeah.
then, so, think about the perks that, don't have, direct cost to the company.
Mm-hmm.
That's certainly some benefit there, whether it's flexible working hours or, those sort of things.
Yeah, and I like that the laptop. I think some people will do cell phones or, small little things that they can help people out with that, it's not necessarily a pay increase, but it is something else that improves like your work and life a little bit.
Just this week, I've been offering employees on the sly, and you'll have to wait to put this podcast up for a little while. But I've been offering toilet paper. Okay,
Oh my gosh, you're
so,
so
so
awesome.
I was cleaning out some of our warehouse and found something close to a hoard. So,
Yeah.
so some of the staff, I was like, "Hey, how you doing there?"
On your
So
stock, I have some.
now it's that commercial rough stuff, so it's not
Uh-huh.
perfect, but
But it's something.
it's certainly
It's
has some perceived value right now.
it definitely does. It's a hot commodity. I know that even up here it's really hard to find it in the stores. So I can't even imagine in Florida right now.
Yeah, it's just sort of a funny thing. What goes, we're used to panic buying down here because of hurricanes,
Oh,
but
right.
but this has been a little bit different with the
Mm-hmm.
toilet paper going first. It's kind of crazy. So
Yeah, I know they're making it as fast as they can right now, it seems like. So I'm hoping that we can get it back and distribute it out to everybody. Is there anything else that you'd kind of like to add to the national conversation about getting a pay bump, you think?
well, for some people now that are changing jobs, I think one of the biggest opportunities you have is at that hiring meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes, look, sometimes companies do a blanket policy and they say everybody's getting a 2% raise this year. That happens sometimes, but you probably never have more of a chance to influence your salary than you do on the day you're hired.
Mm-hmm.
Where, you're interviewing for a position and they say, hey, we're the position pays 75, there's no better chance than to write that day to say, look, I think I'm really going to need 80.
Mm-hmm.
And because remember, for the next 5-10 years, however long you stay there, you're going to get 2 or 3%. And that's just going to compound over time.
Yeah.
And I think that, a lot of companies, sit down and say, okay, we're going to hire this person, and well, what's the pay range? And they say 70 to 80, and they offer you 75, and maybe they really got 80. And
Mm-hmm.
I think you can probably have the most influence over that on day one.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes salary is you'll get this to start, and then in 90 days it goes to this. So maybe
Yeah.
it's that 90-day adjust number, that you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about. But
Yeah.
but I think that first day, there's probably a real opportunity to have a significant influence. I think if you've been there 3-4 years and they say we're going to give you a $4,000 raise, I think it's really hard to say I'd like 9,
Right.
because all of a
Yeah.
sudden, that seems like 120%. And really, 5 out of 75 when you start it, that's a little smaller number and might be a little more palatable. So, really, really focus on that. A lot of people are happy I got that job now, but that's a good chance to really influence what you really earn for the next, because it's not 5 that year, it's 5 every year you're there.
That's true. That's true. I didn't think about it that way. That's the first time that anybody said it like that, John. I really like that. Um, do you interview? Do you interview and hire at all?
I I do.
You
So
do? Yeah.
yeah. So I'm generally, we when someone comes aboard our company, we interview them a lot, and we have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people interview them. We have a unique culture,
Mm-hmm.
so we like to make sure they're a good fit. Generally by the time someone gets to me, they have the qualifications.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of it is about getting the right fit, and then understanding how well they can fulfill that role within our company. So and I would say most people, you offer them a number and they're happy with that. Sometimes it's based on what you advertised and those sort of things. uh, to some extent you can be a little bit impressed by the guy who says, gee, I was really thinking this, because it shows you that he's willing to speak his mind, because you want that if you're working on a project and you've hired someone for an expertise. Boy, you really want them to speak their mind. That's why you're hiring them. So maybe demonstrating that in your hiring session, that shows off a quality to your future supervisor.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people are talking about the fit and the culture. Is that really, you're saying it's really important at Ripley's as well? Like if you mesh almost with the team and the company.
Yeah, again, we have a unique culture, and I think that we've hired some folks, in hindsight, that were technically a perfect fit for the job,
Mm-hmm.
but just not the right fit. I mean, again, we're in the family entertainment business, and we may need an IT guy, or an accountant, but that's the business we're in. We live a service culture. We're here to take care of our guest. So even if you're running the warehouse, you got to think like a service culture. Well, look, we need to get that piece out because our guests are expecting to see it. So, so that fits, super important. You may have a small company, and, maybe the culture is just you, but,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't get along with that person, then, you're not gonna create a great team dynamic to grow that business. And, I think that's everyone's goal.
Yeah, and it makes it just a lot harder to collaborate and for everybody to pull and push in the same direction. So I love that we're shifting more and more to how important the culture is as part of these conversations and just where you're going to work and what that looks like in the interviewing process. I love that. I love that. So
yeah, it's important. So, you know, another thing I try to take a look at with my staff and when I've interviewed, you know, or had salary reviews is, what's the goal, and, you know, what's my reward for getting there. So, you know, sometimes I don't, you know, to some extent, often your job is only worth a certain amount. You know, you can be really, really good at that, but you know, to some extent, look, if you're, if you're a cashier in the grocery store, you know, it's, you're never going to make, $200,000 being a cashier in a grocery store. It's just the job. You know, you can't influence the sale that much. You can be the best clerk that could be, and you could get, inflationary raises and those sort of things, but there may be a cap to your job. So make sure in the salary reviews, you're having a discussion about, well, look, I think I can also do this. And therefore, if I get that, is there some reward for it? Maybe part of a incentive package or a bonus package. It may not always be, straight tied to salary, because maybe you can't do that every year. But try to have that agreement of, ask your boss. I mean, if you're making 75,000 and you say, what do I need to do to make 100? Because, they may tell you that, well, look, that job's not worth it. Or, well, then you need to be able to do this and this, and therefore you can become a department lead, and, that job pays 100. So make sure there's a true understanding between you. And sometimes it's a difficult conversation, but make sure there's a true understanding between you to, this is where I want to go. What do I need to do to get there? Is it more education? Is it more experience? Is it taking on more responsibility? But, this is where I want to be. Tell me what I need to do to get there, instead of just saying, okay, you're going to go from 75 to 80 this year. Find out what you need to do to get where you want to be.
Yeah. I love that. So, John, this has been amazing. And I am so grateful that you've taken the time to talk to us. I can't wait to see some of the new attractions whenever this all, we get back to normal, more or less. And Ripley's will be one of the first places that we take our kids. And if you've enjoyed your time today and feel like you're getting some value, please consider sharing the podcast with your friends and your family and subscribing. You can even take a screenshot and share it on your social and then tag me at Amanda Lefevre so we can connect. John, I just want to say thank you again one more time.
If your listeners are looking for a little something to do too, they could check out our social media stream. We've been posting lots of fun stuff. You can actually see me in a tour of our warehouse.
Really?
So that's up on our Facebook page. So get a behind the scenes tour. Strongly encouraged. If you're a Star Wars fan, that's all I'll say. So
nice. That's awesome. I did not know that. Are you guys on Instagram too? Or is it all Facebook?
Yes, we are.
Facebook?
No, yeah. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok.
All the things.
We've got it all. Yeah. So
are you TikToking? Are you doing TikTok videos?
I have a TikTok account now because I follow the company, and my daughter is making some inroads on TikTok, and she's excited about that. So, trying to be young and hip too. Always need to keep in touch with what our audience is. I'm sort of an old guy who's been around forever, and I rely on a bunch of younger people in our department to tell me what's hip, but try to be cognizant of the fact that you're not hip, so that you can have someone tell you what is.
That's amazing. So are you doing are you doing dance videos, John? Do I need to go look?
No John TikTok dance videos.
That's awesome. Well, I will definitely check out Ripley's on Facebook and Instagram. You said Twitter as well, and follow along. That's really cool that you're doing warehouse tours. All a little sneak peek, some behind the scenes.
Definitely try to entertain the folks while they're at home. So hope everyone is staying safe. Really, really unique time. So enjoy your time with your family. Stay safe. And if you get the opportunity, when you do get out on vacation and you're near one of our attractions, try to see it if you can. We just promise you a nice family-friendly environment and to have a great time on your vacation.
Yes, we will definitely be coming too. And I appreciate it so much, John. And I hope you have a great night, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.